Hi, this is Kym Watson for Ezeetrader. Welcome to a review of what's in store for the month of August. In this review, I'll be looking at the key fundamental economic aspects and also looking at some technical analysis of the major currencies that we look at. And of course, I'll look at the Dow Jones and gold. Okay, so key events really, or the big stories, what's going on geopolitically. We've got the Russian sanctions that have been increased, which could have quite a knock-on effect in Europe, particularly with the larger European countries where these sanctions are probably squeezing more. So this can have quite a knock-on effect, obviously with the UK as well, as it's referring to bank sanctions as well, so quite a knock-on effect from that. And of course, the other headline grabbing at the moment is the Gaza-Israel situation. Now, these are, as I say, are hitting the headlines. Of course, there's still situations occurring in Iraq and many other countries at the moment, and all of this geopolitical tension can have a knock-on effect on currencies, of course. And we could and often do see when the situation is like this, money moving towards the US dollar as bonds became a safe haven. Looking at the economics themselves, we've got Europe, and the deflation still looks possible. We are very unlikely in August to see any changes in the rates or any further help from the European Central Bank, as they generally let things happen for a couple of months, see 2 or 3 months, and see what occurs from what they've already done. And it's only the second month with no action, so I would expect August to be left alone. In the US, we've got stronger inflation. It's starting to pick up a little bit. Jobs not quite there, but the jobs report was a little bit mixed. But it does, as the Fed Chair Yellen has said, there's a problem of underutilization, and the jobs figure, actually, the unemployment figure rose to 6.2, which is a bit of a surprise. So not quite there. It was a mixed bag really with the jobs report, because the personal consumption increased by 0.2 and money salaries increased by 0.2. So there was some good signs there. Also in the US, to help the dollar, more emphasis on the dollar if you like, the GDP figure came out much better than expected. So lots of dollar positive information has been coming out. In the UK, property inflation remains a concern to the Bank of England Monetary Policy Committee, which they have taken some measures to bring this under control. It's very unlikely that the UK is going to do anything in the month of August, in the Bank of England wise. We could see some more rhetoric going on, but with the manufacturing figures coming out last Friday at 54 versus 57 expected, I'm sure there'll be concerns that we may be plateauing, or in fact figures reducing slightly. And the last thing they really want to do in the current situation, what with the sanctions, etc., is put anything that puts the pound at risk. Okay, looking then, let's have a look at run through the currencies technically. I'm going to run through these from a monthly point of view first, looking at the euro dollar first. And as you can see, what we did here on Friday is I say Friday last month actually, mainly Friday, we ran into the monthly 50 moving average. It's taken a slight bounce on that at the moment, but when you look at this time frame, a monthly time frame, it really does put things into perspective. The recent sell-off is relatively small in the bigger picture. As I say, it may have found support here. When you start rolling down from a weekly point of view, we've put a weekly doji in. It fell just short of hitting the weekly 100 moving average, and when we come down to the dailies, well, having done that, it sort of rallied up on Friday. It was the only one really holding on to the gains on Friday. and we really are heading towards the new monthly pivot. Now the monthly pivots are often hit reasonably early, so we could see a push up to that sort of figure. Looking at the COT analysis, just a quick review of where the big players are seeing things here. We bring this into play for the euro, and as you can see, let me just move this cursor out of the way and use a pointer here, make life easier. As you can see, the net position is negative, and it's continuing downward, the net position. So, and not only is the net position, it's also more positions. So the volume's increased, and the direction has increased, so it's more bearish. Now, of course, that doesn't mean to say it's going to continue on forever, but that's still sort of the bigger picture in terms of the big money sentiment. Small amount of money sentiment, it's moved obviously to, I say obviously, but it's gone towards the long side. So there is a sort of bicker in terms of what's going on here, but generally the big players are more trend followers. The shorter term players are just playing the short term movement. So there is a possibility of, as I say, a rally up to the monthly pivot. If we break down here, we've already started this session, the Monday session, Sunday, Monday session. We could get a breakdown back to those lows. If we do, we're probably going to get a bit of divergence kicking in, so that in itself could kick down. However, if it just continues on to the downside, next real key support level is that 133 area really. Also, we've got the weekly. Let's just bring the weekly back in here. We've got that weekly 100 not quite tested, so that may just hold things. So in general terms, the euro looks like it could continue southward to the downside. It's still in a decent downtrend. However, short term, we may just get a relief rally, if you like, back up to the monthly pivot there, and maybe if it holds on there, we could get back up towards the daily 100. Now, looking then at the pound dollar. Right, daily point of view looks really bearish at the moment. Let's look at the bigger picture first, though, and look at the monthly. I'll just take these pivots off for a moment, and you can see from a monthly point of view, in the bigger picture, that we've barely made a move so far to the downside in significance. However, it has come down. It's just short of its 8-period moving average here, and this current move down. If you look at the weekly perspective, we've broken the upward trend there, so there is chance of further downside. We've broken daily trends, now we're breaking weekly trends, so that could easily come down towards the 34, maybe even come back to the 50. It's a long time since it's been tested. Anywhere down to in the next couple of weeks into that sort of area, we may find some support on that 50, because it hasn't been tested since breaking back up above the 200 and 100, etc. So we could get a bit of support and maybe even a bounce off that. From a daily perspective, at the moment things are looking pretty weak, and it does look like it could get all the way back down to the daily 100. Now, if I put the pivots back on just for a second, as I say, the main monthly pivots often hit quite early in the month, although it did actually take quite a long time last month for it to be hit. We are very oversold here from an RSI point of view, although the MACD would suggest there's lots of strength in this downward move here, so we could still be pushing southward. Overall, I'm sure we'll get some support, as I say, the 200 here as well. The daily 200 could just give some decent support, and if we get down to that area with the S2 level pivot. So at the moment, I remain relatively bearish. I'm sort of both the euro and the dollar may see some bounces, but bigger picture for me through August remains bearish at the moment. Now, of course, they could change and get back above their previous trend lines. If they do so, well, the picture may change at that point. Looking then finally for the currency wise, we'll just go have a quick look at dollar yen. Let me take off the pivots and look at the monthlies, and as you can see, we're now in, I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're in the 8th month of consolidation here. Now there is a possibility we can eventually break out of this and get up towards that monthly 200 at the 106 area. When you look at it from a weekly point of view, well, we've just been hand railing the weekly 100 for a long time. Anything to the downside of that could see it strengthen there. From a daily point of view, though, at the moment, I'm just looking to see if it can break. If we can break above this 103 area, well, next highs are really sitting around about 104.10, 104. Somewhere in that 104 area would be good enough. And as I say, a break above these highs, there's little in terms of resistance short term to stop the moves running through there. So again, with the dollar strength, we could see this this moving upwards during the month. Let's just put the pivots back on, sorry. And you see the pivots just below us, so that could easily be hit maybe early this week. Any movement back to that area with that 8 moving average with a strong momentum may actually give us a buying opportunity. Okay, let's have a quick look at the Dow Jones. Again, I'll just take off the pivots for a moment. And we'll come out to the monthly picture, what's been going on here. Very strong upward trend. In fact, if I need to really bring it back to the weekly there, strong upward trend. We've been testing the 50 a few times. Now we haven't, from a monthly point of view, as you can see, as you saw, we hadn't moved very much. Even on this weekly basis, we haven't moved significantly at the moment. Actually, if we come back to the monthly, and you see we've actually put in a shooting star at the highs here. Now, last few times we've done that, we've had some reasonable movements down when it's proper shooting stars. There was one here. It took a little bit of time before it actually come into effect, and eventually went off. But of course, one shooting star doesn't make a bear market. I mean, at the moment, it's still sitting there. Well, just breaking the, as I say, weekly trend, or just on the weekly trend. But if it breaks that weekly trend and breaks down towards the 50, that's been tested before, we could see some further downside. We bring it down to daily chart here, and we'll stick the monthly pivots on here now. And you can see with the monthly pivots just above us, looking at the way that we've got the negative momentum coming in here, we could get any sort of rally into that pivot may be an opportunity the earlier part of the month to sell. One thing to be aware of, a lot of these markets we are looking relatively oversold, although we can continue being oversold for a while. In terms of what we're looking at in the shorter term here, we could just find a bit of support off the 200. Now, August is notoriously a quiet month, been a major holiday month throughout the markets. And we could just see drift. We could just, or we could get a bit more volatility on light trading. Sometimes we see that. Generally, Augusts are quite, say, difficult to trade, but they're quite flat a lot of the time. Lots of quiet periods. Okay, let's just have a look at. Let's have a look at gold to finish off with, and we will look at the. Looking at gold, and I want to I changed it back to Europe. Let's get the months changed instead. Change it to the monthlies, and you can see we're in a bit of a wedge pattern here. Bigger picture would suggest potentially continuation at some point if we were to break this trend line that's sitting there. With the move predominantly downwards, would suggest possibly a continue to the downside. Monthly point of view, well, we just put that big red bar in, or biggish red bar in there. As I say, a break of those lows could see us coming off there. Generally, during the summer periods, the demand for gold reduces, and in old days, we would often see a sell-off during the summer. Weekly point of view, well, the wedge becomes a bit more clearer in terms of where we are. So, break of those lows, well, I'd be looking for sort of a test of that sort of 1185 area again, if it does break that sort of level. But we could easily see a plateau here, or a continuation to the sideward action. That said, if dollar continues to rally, well, gold will feel it as well. In fact, the rally on Friday in the euros also seen in gold here and held on in gold. So overall, the markets, it looks like the dollar could continue in its positive direction, seeing the euro, the pound coming off, and the dollar yen rally, and maybe gold coming off a little bit more. Also, as I say, the equity markets themselves, they've been looking rather toppy for some time. They've shown the right sort of signs, and they've sold off pretty nicely. Continuation, break of these trends, break of that 50 MA that's on 200, daily 200, weekly 50, could see a continuation. Now, as they've sold off so much, it wouldn't be surprised during the month to get some counter rallies, but they may be looking to sell into resistance at those points. Okay, that's it for me. Hope you have a great one. Bye for now.